Everyone has a story. And as you can notice, we're all telling stories. And over the past couple weeks, I've been able to listen to a lot of stories told by a lot of Aurovilians. And one of my favorite pastimes is looking up journals, looking in books, and reading these amazing stories of very powerful moments, very powerful experiences, individual stories of discovery, such beautiful stories. So when I walk through Auroville and I meet Francis, I know there are hundreds of stories that he tells. Everyone I meet, I know that behind them are the stories, how they arrived in Auroville, what they experienced here, and what has kept them here. Let me tell you about an initiative that I think is fascinating. Next. It's called the Human Library. It started in Copenhagen. And this man realized that we need to hear each other's stories. There needs to be a human library. And so, next slide, he started this initiative where, So in Copenhagen, you can actually go to this place called the Human Library Reading Garden. And every day, there are 10 books you can read. And that means you get to interact with 10 people who will tell you their stories. They're often immigrants, refugees, they're people who experienced the war. And so as a person, you can go there, and approximately 3 to 4 people can borrow a person and sit down and listen to them for half an hour. And I thought that was such a beautiful initiative. And boy, would I like to see it here in Auroville so that all of those stories get to be told. And so what you're going to hear to me today is the story that I would tell if I was a book in the Human Library. So my story is about Ami. These are early pictures of Ami when it was being constructed. It was a guest house, one of the earliest guest house. And in 1977, the Auroville community decided, well, why don't we try something? Why don't we give Ami over to a group of children? And it'll be the first children's community. I mean, Auroville's about experimentation. This was a unique experiment. In 77, next slide, the first generation of Ami dwellers, and you can sort of see us there. This is a famous picture you've all seen. Shradavan sitting and reading to us. Behind Shradavan is Kesang and Niru, Miriam, Tashi, myself holding on one side. We were the first children that came and lived in Ami. We were 7 girls. That also says something, right? 7 girls landed up in Ami. And we started experiencing something that I think many of you have experienced when you come to Auroville, is this form of divine anarchy, this form of collaboration and human unity. We had to figure it all out ourselves, from eating and our meals and washing and our laundry, everything ourselves. And we would invite in certain adults to come and help us from time to time. We had windmills that broke down and bicycles that needed repairing. And so there was this wonderful presence of adults in the background, but they had to be invited in. And this community evolved. People came and went. And I think some of the high points of my experience of Ami and what the seed that it kind of planted in me is the 2 plays that Johnny put on. I think this must be the first 2 movies that Johnny made. One was called Disharella, and I think you can all imagine what it's all about. And the second was The Frog Princess. I got to play the role of the frog prince, the prince that comes out of the frog. And so we threw lots of flour in the air, and I jumped up, out of a frog. So Johnny even tells me that we trained the frog. I don't know how we trained the frog, but we trained the frog to turn into a prince, which was me. Other high points of living in Ami were the trips we did to Chennai to see Star Wars. We went out, I have never crammed so many people in a taxi before. I mean, I can remember how crammed that taxi was, but we went and saw Star Wars as a group. And a third thing that there's a couple slides now, the quality of the pictures are not very good, but finding pictures of us in Ami has been very difficult. I've spent time looking through sort of archives. I've been to the archives here and all kinds of magazines, very few. But this is a poster of the circus, the annual circus that Ami would put on. Everyone would come to see our circus show on bicycles. You'll see a couple of other shows. There's one here, snakes, the picture didn't come out. Let's see, the snake, you didn't see the snake. Gymnastics, these pictures. Okay, internet connection is cut. But we had all of these fantastic shows that we put on with trained dogs and fake horses, where we all dressed up as horses, clowns, snakes. All of this was the shows that we put on, and then it left something in me. And this is what I talk about, sort of like the seeds that are planted on all of us through our experiences here in Oroville. Yeah, those were the horses. We had a horse parade. I think we looked with our long manes. The next picture, that's our gymnastic show. That's pretty good, I think. Now, we move over to the States. 16 years old, I moved back to the States, but I'm carrying the seed of Oroville in me. And I land up at Amherst Regional High School, so it's the map behind me. And then I go to Amherst College, and I'm carrying a seed. And what is the seed that I'm carrying? I'm carrying the seed of divine anarchy and human unity, actually. And I'm sitting there in Amherst. There's an article written about me in one of the Matagiri collaborations. And I'm talking about what I want to see in the world. And I say something that I found in this interview doing my research for this presentation. I say, every night before I went to bed, I prayed that I could bring some people back here to Oroville. And that if I did that, somehow I knew they would change. I couldn't I didn't know what would change, but I kept having that thought. So many years later, I land up as a professor at the American University of Paris in communication and anthropology, and that little seed starts to grow, and I actually do that. So for the last 15 years, I've been bringing groups of students back to Oroville to sort of allow that seed, something to change, and it does. Their professions change, their aspirations change. Some of them even got married with Orovillians. At one point, I thought it was going to be a matrimonial service because they were all getting married, and that kind of calmed down a while. But Matanda married one of my students. Some of you know him. So yes, that seed grew, that aspiration. And you know what has been the beautiful part is that I find it today in Oroville when I come back. Next slide. Yes. This is where I found it. The endangered craft Mugam, where I've been taking part for 5 days. The same divine anarchy, the same collaboration and human unity. And why we bring in 150, they've been bringing 150 students in per day. And those students are learning all these crafts from the bioregion, from parts of India. There's mix of all kinds of children. It's exactly what I experienced. And today somebody else is building their story, and another seed has been planted. This is a picture of my daughter who's volunteered now for a year in Oroville and has been working at the endangered craft Mela. And I would just like to say that it's still alive there, that divine anarchy and that collaboration, that human unity. And that's my story.